Hi, I'm Francis Campoy and this is Just for Funk. Welcome to episode number 43 of Just for Funk. As you might have noticed, episode 42 was a huge success and it was that introduction to modules. So today we're going to continue doing some more stuff on modules. There was a lot of people that watched the episode, so thanks so much for that. And a recurrent topic in the feedback that I got, which by the way, I read all comments, so don't be too mean because I read those. But anyway, the recurrent feedback that I saw was people were interested in knowing more. They wanted to know specifically what happens when you go from V1 to V2, right? When you're breaking that backwards compatibility, what does that happen? How do you handle this? So today we're gonna do exactly that. Does that sound fun? Let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna be using two different repositories today. We're gonna be using embedmd, github.com/campoy/embedmd, which is a project that I created some time ago that allows you to embed code into Markdown and make sure that it's up to date. It uses some comments. You'll see how it works. Pretty simple. But the thing is that it doesn't use modules nor versions. I created just for myself and I'm mostly the only person that uses it. So why would I use that, right? But eventually people started using it. So I think it's a good moment to start using at least tags. I'm gonna tag a new release, create a piece of code that's gonna be using modules that is gonna depend on that embedmd package. Then we will migrate that V0 something into V1 and see how you do that. And see how then you update the client and whether it breaks, what things you need to change, etc. And finally, we're gonna go from V1 to V2 by breaking that backwards compatibility by adding a new parameter. That parameter is gonna be a context parameter at the beginning of a function, which definitely breaks the backwards compatibility. So we will need to migrate from V1 to V2 and then migrate the client from V1 to V2, see all of the things that break and how to fix them. So let's get started by creating this new repository, embed.io. I'm gonna be calling embed.io because I like how it sounds. And we're gonna be using that package to show what happens when you depend on embed.md. So I'm gonna create that embed.io, create a new directory, embed.io. We're gonna go into it, embed.io. And we're gonna start by doing a git init. So that initializes as a repository. Then I'm gonna do go mod init, and then it's gonna say, hey, you're already inside of the Go path, so we're not going to use Go modules unless you request it. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna do export Go modules equals on. So that will force Go modules to work even under Go path. So if we do go mod init, this should work now. Cool, so now I created that github.com/campoy/embed.io and go.mod, you will see here. If you don't know what this is doing, you should go first watch the previous episode, episode 42, which I will be linking here. I will never remember where it is. Here. Anyway, because it's, if you have not watched it and you don't know how Go modules work, this is going to be too confusing. So just go watch it. I'll be here waiting for you. So what is next? Well, we should write some code, right? Okay, and we're going to open that directory with my favorite editor, which is Visual Studio Code, to which I recently added I updated some of the Go tooling because now it knows how to search for things with Go modules, which is great, especially for this episode. So let's create one new file, main.go, and this file is going to do func main. It's going to call embedmd.process, and let's see if go import is able to figure out. Cool, it figured out. And basically what this does is it reads something from reader and finds some specific commands that are in the text, and it does something about it and modifies the text that we read and prints it to the output, which is a writer. So I'm gonna give it the writer and the reader. And this should return an error. If the error is not nil, log fatal error. Cool, so this is a very simple package. And if we run it, let's see what happens. So if I do go run main.go, this should see if you say hello, it says hello. But if you use The super complex, this is actually a markdown thing. There's a markdown syntax for comments, yes. And that's what I'm using. So if you do embed md and main.go, it will replace it with the same comment followed by the content of that file. There you go. But anyway, the important thing is that this program works and that it's able to print hello, and then if you ask for a specific piece of a program, it just puts it there. That's what embed does. But the important thing is the contents of this repository so far. So we have our main.go. We also have go mod, and go mod, let's make this smaller. So go mod, it's saying that this is the name of the package and that we depend on embed. And since embed does not have any tags or any versions or anything, it actually doesn't even have modules. It will say we're using v.0.0 dash, and then this, I think it's the date of the latest commit and probably the tag, but let's actually check that out. So if we go to embed and do get log 1, we should see C. So that should probably match with this. There you go. So that is the hash of the commit, and that date 2017 December 5. So yeah, that looks like that's what we're using, v0.00, because there's no versions yet, and then the date, and then the date and time, and then the commit hash. So cool. So this is what we have right now, and this works so great. Now let's save this into Git. So git commit first version without any versioning, which is kind of a weird thing to say, to be honest, but whatever. Okay, so this works, and now let's say that we add some new versions or whatever to embed, and actually we migrate from v0 to v1 because we're ready to be stable. Yay. And we're never going to break the backward compatibility, except like in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's go to embed and see what we have in here. We have some files and everything, but we don't have Go modules or anything. We have no tags, and we have a bunch of branches, but there's nothing that looks like a version at all. So, okay, so what do we do next? Well, in order to move from v0 to v1, actually you don't need to do much, because when you're in v0, basically what you're saying is like, well, no guarantees not given, right? Like you can depend on v0, and anything could fail, everything could break at any time, because that's the whole point of v0. But once you reach v1, basically what you're saying is from v1 on, you're saying I'm not going to be breaking backwards compatibility, and now you can start depending on me. So if there's a v1, you should always use v1, because if there's a v1, there's no reason to use a v0, right? If there's a v2, you might still want to use v1, right? Those are different things. Those are different versions. So in between v0 and v1, the change in between one and the other is basically implicit. So what does that mean? This means that I can do git tag v1.0.0.0 and then come back to our file here. So what you need to do is go to go mod and say, instead of v0.0.0, I'm going to use v1.0.0. Then you save, you do go build, and it says, no, I don't know how to do this. And this is normal. And the reason is that we are actually not using go path. So this doesn't know how to find the v1.0.0 under go path. It knows how to look for it where it was looking for it before, which is GitHub, right? So it checks there and it doesn't find it. So there's two ways of doing this. One is to push the tag to GitHub, and we'll do that in a minute. But the other option when you're hacking on this is to say, I'm gonna be telling Go modules where to find this specific package. And the way to do it is by running this command. So you can do go mod edit replace the package and where to find it. And here actually I'm saying just like embed the sibling directory. And this is going to add this replace command. Now this replace command is useful for me to be hacking here right now, but it's something that I'm not sure you want to commit and to push to GitHub itself, right? Because this is basically a hacking version so things can collaborate with each other. And there's actually a nice way to do this kind of flow, which is called Go Hack. So check it out, Gohack. It's a pretty useful tool for this kind of workflow. But with this now, this should already work, and it doesn't. Because now what is going on is that it's saying, hey, I went there, but that is not a Go module, so I cannot do anything. So moving it to V1 is not enough, actually, because now they're using V1 and we're changing, we're pushing, we're telling Go modules to find that directory somewhere. It actually needs to find a module. And unfortunately, this is not a module yet. So let's migrate embedmd to modules. And this should be as easy as go mod init, go mod tidy for good taste, and git add, go test, just in case. Let's test that everything is still working. Everything works. So now we can do git add, git commit -m, and say migrated to modules. And actually, I'm gonna move the v1.0 from the previous commit to this one, because I think that this one should be the one that is actually v1. To do that, I'm going to do this, and you need the -f because the tag already existed for the previous commit. So now we'll say that v1 is here, migrated to Go modules, and the previous one is here, origin master. So now that this is Go modules, if we run this again, it will now find it and everything works, right? So now embed.io depends on embedmd v1.0.0, which is to be found in this machine under /embedmd. So great, we went from using no versions, no tags, to using v1.0.0, and also to have to use modules in order to be able to use the replace command. Instead of using replace command, what is the other option? Well, the other option, so now if I keep this again, if I remove the replace command, this stops working, right? So how do you fix it? Well, git push tags. If you push these tags, and actually not only the tags, but also the everything, right? So I tag git log now, git push origin master. Let's see if it's not protected. It is protected. So let's create a branch, git checkout -b v1, that create a new branch, git push origin v1. And with this should be already enough. This should already have a new branch, v1, and also a new tag, v1.0.0. So even without merging that PR, you should be able to now do go build, and it will download the new version, right? So just sending the content of the branch with the tag is enough. You don't need to merge it into master. It will be able to find it no matter what. So that's important. That's pretty cool. Okay, so now we got to the point where basically everyone can start depending on embedmd, because everybody understands that this is now stable. Okay, so now imagine that someone tells me, hey, actually, I really need to cancel this operation, so you should provide a way to do so, which means that I want you to get a context parameter, right? So basically, I want to be able to do context.background, and then context cancel, context with timeout of context of a second, defer cancel. And if you don't know how to use context, there's a very good video about context episode, I do not remember, which will be linked right here. But basically the idea is I want to be able to do this. And now, how do you do this? This is the API that I want now. Well, there's no way of doing this and not breaking the API, unfortunately. You could technically say, I'm going to open the code for embedmd and say the func process. You could create one with process with context. process with context. That would be the normal way of doing this, and that would actually be the correct way, because you do not necessarily need to break the backwards compatibility just because you want to add this method. But let's say that you really wanted to do so. How would you do it? Well, I'm not gonna get into the details on how to use this context internally. I'm just gonna ignore it for now in this code. But let's say that now I have this, right? So I've made this change, and now thanks to that change, this should now compile, except that it doesn't, because we need to do our edit to say actually use the code that we are hacking on. So if we save this, now it works, right? But the problem is that now it means that I've broken everyone's code. If I push this in v1 something, everyone that updates from v1.0 to v1.1, say you call this v1.1, they will break their code. And that is not cool. So you should not tag this v1 anything. You need to tag this v2 something, because you broke the thing. Cool. So how do you do that now? Well, the way you're gonna do it, it's actually pretty cool. So you're gonna go to the module and you're gonna say, hey, so in the Go mod, this now is going to be v2. And this seems like a small thing, but by doing this, you're actually saying that anyone importing this code needs to import in v2. So it needs to use this import path. So if we go here and I save this, this should now not compile. Oh, it compiles. So this compiles because, so this still compiles because actually what we need to do is we need to say we're gonna be using that v2 cat tag. Okay, so now this doesn't work because they're saying, hey, I don't know where to find it, because you need to also say here that actually you're gonna depending on v2, and that's gonna be v2, and that still that v2 is gonna be redirected there. So now go build should try to download v2 and it will just work. How does this work? Magic, not really actually. So the way this works is that by saying this was v2, this was already able to find where it is. The thing is that this is still not in our code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to a different branch. I'm gonna call that v2, and I'm going to add it here. So adding context parameter. So in between v1 and v2, the difference is the file and also the Go mod changed, right? That little change. And this is already enough. Now, if I push this, so this works already. Go mod is saying that we're using v2, and go sum will now also have v2 somewhere on here. Actually, not yet, because what we need to do next is we need to git push this code to origin v2. And once we do this, we now know that everything is ready to drop this, to go build. And this was not happy because it is able to know that we want v2.0, but it doesn't find v2.0.0.0. It could find v2.latest, I think. This should work for it. Yeah, and it will add the commit because there's no tag. But the problem is that we need to also add a tag. So you need to do git tag v.0.0.0, v.2.0.0, sorry, and then git push tags. And now once you do this, you should be able to go back to Go mods, to the Go mod here and say, actually, no. I really want v2.0.0. When you do go build, this will now detect it and find it and download it. So now go sum will have v0, v1, and v2. Important thing here is that v2 is a different import path than v1. So you can actually use v1 and v2 at the same time in the same program, and this is great, right? Because imagine that this program was actually a very, very big program, and that you wanted to migrate file per file, or even line per line, right? So here you could have something that does let's say I'm gonna call this another main that's gonna do exactly the same thing as main, but actually we want to do it without the context. So this seems like this is not possible, right? Because either you use v1 and this one compiles but this one fails, or you do v2 and this one compiles but this one fails. Well, actually you can do this, where you're gonna be used 2 and you're gonna have to use an alias for one of them. So say we're gonna use old embed md, and now I'm going to use that old embed md here, and now both of them compile and both of them work, right? And that's the whole point about having a different import path for different versions other than v0 and v1, right? Once you go v1, v2, v3, every single version is going to be a different package completely. So you're going to be able to import them independently, therefore use both versions at the same time, which is great. Unless you have global variables and init functions and all of these things, because then all of a sudden you actually are going to have twice those global variables. You're going to run those init functions twice, and all of those problems, which is why we normally say that init functions and global variables are a bad idea. So let's review what we did today. So we started with embeddmd not having any tags or anything. We added a tag which was v1.0.0, and that let our embed.io, which is the client, go from that tag v0.0.0 with the timestamp plus a commit hash to v1.0.0. But not before we either push that tag into the repository on GitHub, or we use the replace command on the go.mod to tell Go modules where to find that code. Then what we did was migrate to v2. In order to do that, we created a new branch called also v2, because the other option would have been to create a new directory v2, which is kind of annoying, so I don't think that many people will do that. Also an option, but not mentioned today. But we created that Git branch v2, and under that Git branch, now we were able to create a new import path, which had that -v2 at the end, which means that the import path on embed.io had to change. But it had to change only once we were ready to migrate to the new version, which is great. And then in order to add v2.0.0, we also had to tag and push that v.0.0 tag into GitHub to have everything working, unless you wanted to, again, use replace. So this is the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. There was a very clear mission here, which was show how to migrate from v1 to v2. But there's many other things that you might be interested in doing with Go modules. One of them is, for instance, how to manage multiple modules inside of a single Git repository. And the answer to that involves Git submodules, which are scary. And I didn't want to deal with that yet, but if you're really interested in that, leave a comment down here and I will consider it. Again, thanks so much to everyone that watched the episode, the previous episode on Go modules, and left so many nice comments and the thumbs up and share with people. That was super nice. I really, really appreciate it. And for this episode, I will just simply ask the same. Leave a comment, like the video, share the video with your friends, tell them about how awesome justforfunc is, and ask them to subscribe. Subscribe yourself, create fake accounts and subscribe. I do not care. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you all in 2 weeks.